Hello and welcome to Will Watches. This is Spiderhead. So this is directed by Joseph Kosinski, which is really exciting. He's got Top Gun Maverick, which is out in cinemas right now, which I've heard rave reviews about. I haven't seen it yet because I want to do a video for it when it gets released. And he also did Only the Brave, which was really great, really underrated movie. If you haven't seen that, I really highly recommend it. He worked with Miles Teller on that, and then Miles Teller is back here again and in Top Gun Maverick, and then Chris Hemsworth is in this as well. I'm really surprised how little Netflix has been promoting this movie, considering the great director, the great cast. You know, you can tie it into the Top Gun Maverick hype that's happening at the moment. It just seems like a no-brainer. And then I have like no idea what this is actually about. From like the poster, which is all I've seen of it, it kind of looks like a political spy thriller, that kind of thing. There's people on boats, there's people wearing sunglasses looking cool. It looks kind of like a spy movie from what I've seen, but that could be completely off the mark. So before we get into this, be sure to check out the Patreon. Over there you can find 1 week early access. You can also find polls so you can vote for what's next, and you can find a full-length timer-based version of this where you can watch along with me if there's anything that I cut out from the YouTube edit. So yeah, let's just jump right in.
Okay, Ray, you are an incarcerated volunteer in the Spiderhead clinical trial program. Before we begin, I need your permission to administer G46. Drip on.
Acknowledged.
So it's a prison and he's telling jokes for some reason. Okay, but he said he was administering something, like giving him a drug.
What did the magician say to the fisherman? Pick a card, any card.
Okay, has he given him like laughing gas or a drug that makes him find things funnier?
In the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, over 800,000 people died.
And he's still laughing. But you know, sometimes when you're trying not to laugh, trying to hold in a laugh, it makes it even harder. It does almost feel like a Bond villain lair. This isn't kind of, we're getting it from the villain's perspective perhaps, you know? That would be a cool twist on like a spy movie, I guess.
As volunteers in the Spiderhead Penitentiary and Research Center.
So they said they were volunteers here, but they're also prisoners. So are they prisoners who volunteer to come and join this like experimental program? And Miles Teller is one of the prisoners.
Okay, if we pep up your language centers, Jeff. Trip on. Sure. Acknowledge.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Acknowledge.
So they can like fully control parts of his brain. They were like controlling how good his vocabulary was.
Oh, these field trips, everyone but me.
You're still new.
I'm not that new.
So it's pretty like low security then when they're actually in here.
You notice. We
Finish each other's sentences.
I was gonna say need new goals.
So because this is all drugs, I'm expecting things to maybe get a bit trippy towards the end, or like, you know, maybe he goes on like a prison escape and escapes, and then it was all in his head because he was on a drug or something, you know? Yeah, so he's seen this beautiful landscape and it's just this. Okay, this was a backstory. Why is he actually here? Yeah, what did he do to get put in prison? So high security, because the other guy was serving like 4 life sentences, right?
That's the boss.
You two go have fun. I'm gonna stay here.
So it seems like whatever he did was an accident. You have to make the main character likable, you know? He was like drunk driving or something, but he didn't like murder someone purposefully. That can't have been enough to get him put here, right? Just a drunk driving crash. They're really going heavy with the kind of juxtaposition of like the really fun poppy songs with the actual kind of situation around it.
He's all right. A 5 on a good day.
On a good day, ooh.
Give her honesties.
Yeah. Are they gonna try and like manipulate how they feel about each other?
Jeff, Heather, can I have your permission to administer N40? Drip on.
That was what made the landscape look beautiful, so is it gonna increase their attractiveness to each other? Love Acting is the name of the drug, okay.
Sunny, you're gorgeous. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I didn't see it before.
Oh look, there's like a lethal and a safe slider, so eventually it can go to a lethal side.
Are we getting this?
Are they just gonna sit there watching? Are they just gonna turn it off like halfway through as well?
I didn't think it was possible.
That's such like a violation of your free will and like of your consent as well. Did he say I didn't think that was possible because he didn't think it was possible to love someone else like he loved his girlfriend from before?
After they come down, in the next hours, days, do they seek contact?
Yeah, is it a lasting effect?
Hey guys,
And they've just like come to, it's almost like they had no idea what just happened. Yeah, so like bringing people in that he probably wouldn't be attractive to, you know, what if they bring in a man and if he's straight and they bring in a man, you know, how can that affect sexuality? That's really like morally iffy, isn't it?
Yeah, fine. Acknowledge.
But because he said acknowledge, is that how they say like he's given consent? Because he's acknowledged it before, but you can see obviously it was obvious that he was reluctant there. So like on their little devices, there's like 5 different lights. Are there 5 different drugs that they have? So there was like the vocabulary one, the love one, maybe a laughing one that we saw with Ray at the start, and then like 2 others. Okay, so these 2, they're actually like in the same room here. They're not even, they're not like completely isolated even though they're prisoners. They are treating them quite well, I guess, in terms of like the actual facility. Like it's quite casual, I guess, as a prison, as a prison goes.
Try not to let the girls touch your Moby pack.
So you could tamper with the pad and then it would stop them getting control, but of course you could mix the drugs in a weird way and just mentally like mess with you. Oh yeah, exactly. They've got 2 women in here. Does it just amplify your feelings? Because if there's nothing there at all, will that actually change anything?
the world needs our help more than ever.
Yeah, the world needs the help, so why are they actually making this drug? Is it just like antidepressant? But it feels like you could use it to control people really badly, right? Like you could control the population if you could make them all feel joy or feel fear.
They have Darkenflox in their Moby packs?
Excuse me.
So Darkenflox, what is that? Like that sounds like evil. Is that like hatred or anger or something?
Hungry.
And they've given him a hunger one, okay?
Why such reluctance to the Darkenflox then?
Because I was a part of I-16.
So he knows what this does to you. Is it like fear?
I'm giving the Darkenflox to Heather. Okay?
Oh, see if that will change his mind if it's actually random. He seemed to care more about when he said he was giving it to Heather.
You and Sarah were on double the dose of you and Heather, and yet your feelings for the 2 women are largely the same.
Oh, the dose was different. So they're really hyping up this Darkenflox then. It feels like it's going to be a bigger point later on.
We have people everywhere loving, being loved, capable of love.
If everyone is so focused on love, will that put everything else on the back burner? You know, focus everyone on love. People aren't going to their jobs. People aren't making whatever makes the world run isn't functioning, you know? Oh, some definite setup there with that notebook.
But listen, man, think if you'd had the benefit of one of our products before your fateful night.
The thing is, it's not just emotions that it changes, right? Because it can change his vocabulary, so it could change like how attentive you are. So if he had like some drug that made him super skilled there, he wouldn't have crashed perhaps. Is that what he's trying to say? Yeah, with this Darkenflox, it feels like things could become almost like horror-like towards the end, you know? If suddenly he's pumped with Darkenflox and he's having visions and he's like super scared of everything.
Free Fridays. Lucky.
Free Fridays, okay. Or he gets to go out into the real world, or he can just control like whatever his drug is. Like imagine a day where you control like, oh, I just want to be happy today.
I wanted to tell you the usual, that I miss you. And
Okay, so he can like leave a voicemail for her, but he isn't free. He's just like free to roam this little island or something. It feels like there must be something more to his story than it just being some drunk driving. I don't know, it seems like such a small scale crime to be put here for. But of course they said they volunteered, so he could have been in prison and then volunteered to come here instead of being in an actual prison. Yeah, it's gonna be a man.
Go fuck yourself.
I don't think it's gonna be himself that it is.
So I'm not doing this. I won't.
He can like turn it down, but they have the ability to just turn it on without him acknowledging it, can't they? And they're just gonna make them sit here until they do, maybe.
What the
fuck was there?
Yeah, so this other guy, he doesn't know that what the situation was really. But, like, was he considering it for a bit there or something? But they could have, like, turned it up just a little bit to make him consider, you know?
Mr. Amnesty asked you who to darken flux, me or Roby?
He did present me with that dilemma.
Oh, okay. So that was a Dark and Flux test. That wasn't a love test between the two of them.
And secondly, right, our open door policy is my greatest pride. I can come visit you, you can come visit me.
Yeah, it is really casual, isn't it?
There's no guards. That's only possible in a culture of mutual respect.
Steve is acting all like high and mighty, how he's treated them all well. They are still like prisoners here, aren't they? And what he's doing isn't exactly morally right, playing with their emotions the way he is, even if he's putting on this front of doing it like in a nice way, having this open door policy or whatever.
Mark, smile once in a while, okay? We're changing the world.
So Mark is having second doubts here as well, perhaps? Mark is the one who puts the little capsules in their holder, right? So he could give them something else instead of Dark and Flux, and when you activate Dark and Flux, it gives them whatever the other thing is. And they mentioned there about having a drug to forget things. That would be really useful. That could be really abusive as well. You could really abuse that, couldn't you? He can give himself stuff as well, so that's good to know. In the future, you know, Mark could sabotage him, give him a ton of Dark and Flux or something. But he's got an open door policy. He can't just like walk into a woman's quarters now that he's pumped himself up on the loved one.
What, Laughable?
Yeah, we sell it to comedy clubs.
I say you gotta think huge.
It's like Laffadil or the loved one. You could like give it to soldiers on war and like stop a whole war from happening, you know?
Remember, at least 12 hours apart.
Yeah, so Steve is like starting to abuse it now, perhaps.
Yeah, when you first hired me.
Yeah, you disapproved, duly noted, would you? Hey.
Has Jeff just found out that he's taking them as well? Do the other people actually know that Steve is on the stuff as well?
And what about Heather's?
You stood right there and watched me, Steve.
Mark is really like starting to get an attitude, isn't he? Something feels off about this like grand committee as well that he has to talk back to. Part of me feels like maybe that's just a ruse just to just so he can get away with more stuff, you know? Say that there's a committee asking them to do it.
Can I suggest, if you knew Heather's past, making her feel briefly sad, nauseous...
It feels like almost Steve is kind of on something constantly. Like he's got a small amount of something always in him to make him like seem more positive.
Feet were all rashed up. Did a certain individual rush over to the mainland, picking up her prescription, paying for it with his own personal money?
Yeah, he's always trying to be like, act like a nice guy to show that he's a nice guy.
Just, you know, you get someone's file, and you form these preconceptions, even when you know there are plenty of circumstances. And
Okay, so he's saying that her crime doesn't match up to her personality or something.
Anyone else here? No.
Was she lying about the whole Christmas thing before?
I'm sorry, man. Unfortunately, the committee was very firm.
Yeah, so he didn't make a phone call at all.
Drip on.
The thing is, she wasn't even acknowledging that it was Dark and Flux. Did she actually know that it was Dark and Flux? She was just giving consent to being given a drug. She didn't know what one.
I don't like this.
So what actually is it for Dark and Flux? Is it pain or is it fear?
And do you love her? No. Just further commentary?
I'd say no.
Oh, did she just break the multi-pack?
Steve? Steve, I think it's flooding.
Oh, it's flooding with Dark and Flux. She's got like max Dark and Flux. She's got a lethal amount of it. Is she gonna kill herself to get rid of the pain? Or she could like attack Mark.
I'm responsible.
And now Jeff is gonna blame himself. Well, this is the first incident of something going wrong, and this is exactly what Steve is going to have to hold responsibility for this. Talk to the committee. Oh, he can get the notebook.
Amnesty Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, so he's the CEO, so he doesn't have a committee. Yeah, so what is this? The gold stars? Is it like once that's all filled out, he can take it public? So there's still another one. There's another one we don't really know about.
That's your fault. That's your fault.
Oh, wow. It's leaving a handprint of blood on him. But now if he walks back in, the others are going to see there's blood on him. And Ray doesn't care. Did Ray not care that he was cleaning up blood? But they could have given him something to make him like not care about it.
Everything I've accomplished will be lost, and
Yeah, so they start covering it up. But like he's not seeing how much this is like a problem. You know, someone's died, and if you gave this to the general public, that could also happen. You know, why would Darkenflox even have a use to the general public if it wasn't a malicious use? You know.
Heather died for the best of causes. Okay?
Mark's definitely got doubts. Look at him. The way he's shrouded in shadow here. I hope he does actually do the right thing here, but I feel like maybe he won't. Like, he won't do the right thing in enough time or something. You know, what use would Darkenflox be outside of something malicious like punishment for prisoners or controlling a population, you know?
Science. We have to explore the unknown.
But at what point do you stop and you go too far? Like, someone's died here.
Have feelings, and no one is more broken up about this than me.
That isn't what he's portraying, though, is it? It feels like his personality is almost always the same. I don't know, there's something weird about Steve. He always has this, like, positive outlook.
Can I get you something for how you're feeling?
No, you need to just let him sit in his emotion. Yeah, look at this. They're just laughing their heads off.
And he dropped me off, and it turns out it wasn't summer camp. It was foster care.
Wow, that's dark.
Verbaloose isn't doing shit.
So the fear counteracts the Verbaloose. Okay, that makes sense though, doesn't it?
Make people afraid of things that are bad for them.
What, like gluten?
Yeah, or thinking too much.
So is this a new one? Is this the B16? So it makes you scared this isn't the Darkenflox.
Should we pack it in? Steve, should we pack it in?
Yeah, Steve is just too fascinated by it, isn't he? Mark is kind of the one reining him in. I think if Mark wasn't here, Steve would push it too far, and like he has pushed it too far. Combining the Darkenflox with the fear one, that could work out well, because if they had made Heather afraid of the shard that she'd stabbed herself with, she obviously wouldn't have killed herself there.
Why do we keep saying yes?
Acknowledge.
They can't really say no though, because they'll get kicked out, can they?
All the times you said yes. Why did you?
I guess I felt like I deserved it.
Oh, he sees it as like a form of punishment for himself.
That's what I've been meaning to tell you, Lizzie.
Was it Emma in his car actually, instead of just his friend? So Emma died as well. Like, obviously that would make more guilt for him, but it's still just drunk driving. It's not like a premeditated murder, like it's still bad, but it doesn't feel like he deserves to be here in this prison, going what he's going through.
Come on, be quick!
Oh, she's still alive there. She's like looking him in the eye, and it's about to explode. Wow. Yeah, that would definitely traumatize you, knowing that they knew. Like, all it was some eye contact, but like, how would you interpret that? You'd relive that moment over and over again, thinking like, was she looking into my eyes with hatred, like blaming me for what happened, or, you know?
2 counts voluntary manslaughter. And that doesn't include Heather.
Yeah, the Heather one definitely wasn't on him.
I said acknowledge.
It's acknowledged, but it's acknowledged under these circumstances of him potentially getting returned back to state prison. It's just like controlling people's emotions. I just had this thought, like, they could have made it so whenever he sees Lizzie, he gets a little dose of love acting, and it's like an experiment to see if he would fall in love with someone. You know, there's so many like morally corrupt things you can do with this.
Triple murder. Dealer. The
dealer's sister and the dealer's sister's boyfriend.
And they all just like walk around together so casually, you know?
If we're all so bad, where's the bad?
Yeah, everyone's so casual and so nice to each other when they're in here. It's not something where they've like manipulated their memories somehow. Manipulate their memories so they think they're prisoners somehow. I don't know, we've only seen them manipulate their emotions, not their memories.
Procom are insisting on one last trial to establish a baseline. You have to administer Darkenflox to someone you've never shared N40.
Oh yeah, that's a good excuse. But he's giving him the remote.
Lizzie doesn't deserve this.
It won't go as far this time, you have my word.
There's no way he can control that though, because we saw with Heather, she just bashed the pack against the wall. There's no guaranteeing that that won't happen again here.
What you did won't have to happen to anyone again. Drugs like this will prevent places like this.
Will they though? I don't know.
Only you can prevent another you.
Yeah, look at how he's trying to manipulate him, trying to guilt him.
He promised me we would change the world. I just wanted to help people.
But it's clearly not. So is he gonna mix up the drugs that he gives to Jeff? Or just like not give any at all? And we could get Mark to give Steve the wrong ones as well, because Steve, he's like pumped up on Levactin. You could give him the Darkenflox.
Mark's out today. He's got a stuffed up nose or something.
Or has Mark chosen to have this day off? Or did Steve catch it all on CCTV and give him the day off?
I filled Lizzie's vials with the last of the Darkenflox this morning, dumped the rest.
Really? No, that sounds like a lie. We saw he put the thing, the case of all of them in the drawer, but I didn't see what was still in there. I wasn't paying attention to that. There might have been more Darkenflox in there if I had looked.
Give Lizzie the Darkenflox.
Could Mark have tampered with it and she's not got Darkenflox in? Because it seems like Mark is working with Jeff now. Or he could be giving Darkenflox to Steve or giving something to himself.
Let's get to know each other.
Doesn't matter, she already told me.
Oh, did she?
Robbery.
Yeah, that's something deeper. Is there anything she can say that will actually make him change his mind?
I know who I am. I'm the mother who killed her baby.
Killed her own baby? Why though?
That's who I am, Jeff. The mother who forgot her little girl in our car.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't purposeful.
Was alive for 3 hours while I went to work.
While she went to work, you know, there's a lot of situations around that, isn't there? If she couldn't afford daycare and needed to go to work still to keep her job, you know?
Or whatever he wants you to do to me. Come on, let's get on with it, okay? There's no greater pain than having to wake up every fucking morning without her. Anything in me worth loving died with her long ago.
She doesn't believe in herself, yeah.
Please.
I noticed the glass is at an angle for the reflections. You can see like the frame of the glass, so the reflections aren't as bad for the camera. And look at that, he's laughing. Has he given him the laughing drug? Yeah, that must be it. I thought he was like actually laughing for a second. What's he giving him a phobia of though? Can he choose what objects that gives him a phobia?
Stop it.
He's made him scared of Jeff.
B6. It doesn't make you happy or hungry or horny. It makes you do as you're told.
Oh, so they've been constantly given something to make them agreeable.
What were you gonna call it? OBDX. OBDX.
Obedient, yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's why he's so comfortable with the open door policy.
Can't you picture it? A world filled with people who do as they're told.
Yeah, so just getting rid of everyone's free will.
No more drunks crashing cars. Husbands killing wives.
Kids left at summer camp.
But that's all part of the human condition, isn't it? Free will and doing things that are wrong.
You were free to go 7 months ago. And Lizzie, her appeal just fell on very sympathetic ears. She's been free for a week.
Wow. And they're still here because they had no idea.
She's walking out of here. Today.
Well, he's gonna have to agree to everything because he's on the V6.
Really works, huh?
Not someone who's been told to kill the only thing he's ever loved.
Yeah, so it doesn't work on strong enough emotions because it wasn't working on him. That's true. He needs to give him Darkenflux and he'll just stab himself. Oh.
I just Darkenfloxed to Lizzie. All 4 vials.
All onto Max. Oh, and that's just messed up his one. But there must be a certain amount after that. It will just run out, right? But it's if it will run out before she'll kill herself. He's just gonna start laughing or something with the laugh one broken. He's just getting a mix of all 5. A real concoction of it.
I love you. Nothing that you said or did's gonna change that.
They've both got their regrets and their trauma, don't they?
Friends and neighbors, so sorry to interrupt.
Oh, and he can just control them. They all have the B6, yeah. He can just say, hey, go stop them.
Shit finger.
Finally reveal of her, who it was. Not sure if I like this music choice. Like, I get what they're going for with the juxtaposition, but I'm not sure. But if everyone is so agreeable, do they agree with everyone's command or just Steve's?
Got the key to the pantry.
Oh yeah, this is the guy who's just constantly hungry.
Awesome. Thanks.
This is like an oddly comedic ending, I don't know. I could get scared of flying or something and just crash into the ocean. Yeah, it's not feeling anything.
That's beautiful.
Oh, he was seeing the beauty, okay. It's so hard to know if emotions are actually real at this point. She's laughing, but she's not just getting some laugh drug in her, is she? This feels real though. This feels like the ending. This is finally them getting to live their real emotions. Oh yeah, of course, she never got to see the sun.
I wish there was a self-forgiveness drug.
There isn't just a magic bullet to heal everything though, is there?
But there's no drug like that, so we're gonna have to do it for ourselves.
Okay, so that was Spiderhead. I feel pretty conflicted on this. I'm kind of on the fence. There's some stuff in here that I did really like. The more high sci-fi concept stuff of drugs that manipulate your emotions, and the whole concept of them being in a prison and having their emotions manipulated. It was a really cool concept, but I'm not sure if I 100% like the execution here. Sometimes it felt a bit kind of tonally inconsistent. There were some points where it feels very mysterious, almost like Ex Machina or something like that, and then there's other times where it's very jovial and funny, like especially in that 3rd act. That was really weird. The sudden tone shift, you know, they just had these big revelations, they're escaping, and then suddenly it's really funny, and I kind of get what they're going for with getting some music overlaying to juxtapose what is actually happening. That's quite a common technique. You have happy music playing when something sad is happening. It creates this like tension, but I'm not sure if it worked 100% here. I feel like it could have chosen a tone and stuck to it a bit better. You could have had been like really jovial and having that being juxtaposed with what the actual content is, or have it be really dark the entire time and have it be this like sci-fi mystery, but it kind of blends the two and it gets a bit muddied in that. I think I did really like Chris Hemsworth's performance here. I think he did a really good job, really convincing as Steve, and there's some fun stuff, you know, playing around with the emotion at the end. You know, he's laughing, he's getting his influx of the drugs, so he's laughing, he's crying, he's suddenly sad, he's suddenly tearful. That was cool. He did a really good job here. It was cool seeing him as a villain instead of a hero, even though he's trying to be this like nice guy, but you can tell there was something more sinister underneath, right? So I really liked him in this. Jurnee Smollett as well, she was really good in this. I think this is the first thing I've seen her in, but she did a really good job. You know, that moment where she was like breaking down, saying what happened with her kid, that was a really good emotional moment. Her acting there was really good, but I'm not sure if that scene like fit. I don't know, it kind of came out of nowhere. I'm not like 100% sure on it, but her acting in that moment was great. I did really like the concept here, but I feel like they could have potentially pushed the concept further and asked even more deep questions. Like, there are some really cool themes of, like, with the love drug, this kind of like theme of consent that they bring up again with how they're all given the B6, so they're all just kind of agreeable. There is some really cool stuff in here, and you know, it's asking a lot of questions that they're very morally like complex, because they're agreeing to stuff, but they're agreeing to it under these conditions. You know, Jeff, he was agreeing to give people the Darkenflocks, but it was under the condition that he was under the threat, so he wasn't really agreeing to it. It was like under the threat of him being kicked off and going back to state prison. But I feel like actually having the B6 make them agreeable, it kind of undermines that theme of them being forced into this consent, forced into consenting to these situations. So I feel like it could have been better if the B6 wasn't a plot point in this, if they wanted to explore that side of it more. But of course we see that the B6 is not like, it doesn't work perfectly, because he was still rejecting some things. He didn't want to hurt Lizzie when it came to that. So if your emotion is strong enough, it can counteract this B6. I did really like the setting, you know, this island setting was really cool, and then the kind of interior design of everything was cool, this kind of modern minimalist interior. But I wish we'd got a bit more of that. It did feel quite small scale, and that might be partially because of the budget or something like that. We were constantly in kind of the same 3 rooms. We didn't get to see much of the islands outside. They could have had like a good action set piece on one of the islands or something. The third act just, it felt like it just kind of came and went really quick there. They could have had like a standoff, you know, maybe the buildings crumbling, burning down. They have a standoff on the roof, and like as Steve is like falling into the water or something after a final fight, he is like laughing because the drugs have messed up. That was a cool idea, having him as the villain, and in the finale his like emotions are all messed up. It's like him getting his comeuppance. That was a cool idea, but I feel like they could have done it differently and it could have been better, I think. And I know this is based off of a book, so they probably didn't want to divert too much from the book. You're kind of constrained a bit by that, so that could also be the case. If it was like there were some things here where you can tell it's based off a book, that's not like positive or negative, but you can just kind of get that vibe, I guess. You know, in adaptation, it's not always the best idea to adapt something 100% accurately, because there are some things that work better on screen than in a book, and there's certain things that work better in books than on screens. Part of the adaptation is the art of the adaptation, taking what works and adapting it for the screen to make it work on screen as well. So I feel like amping up the third act could have worked better here. And in a book, something being like small scale, taking place in a few rooms, that can work well in a book, but like on screen, having like even more situations, even more sets and things could have made the world feel a bit grander. And it feels like there are some concepts you could explore here even further. You know, when they started taking the Darkenflux, I was thinking, you know, you could turn this into a horror movie in the third act if you wanted to. You could suddenly give everyone the Darkenflux, they're having visions of like ghosts and things as they're trying to escape. You could really go crazy with the concept, and I feel like it didn't quite push it far enough. And there are like a few reveals in here, but I still feel like the reveals weren't big enough in terms of what people's crimes were. Jeff, he was drunk driving and he killed 2 people, manslaughter. Obviously it's his fault, but it's not like he voluntarily killed someone. It's not like a premeditated murder. And the same with Lizzie as well. She left her baby in a car for 3 hours, which is obviously neglectful for your child. But when she said she killed her baby, my first thought was like, was it purposeful? Was it like postnatal depression? Or I'm not sure what the exact term is, but there's when you've just had your baby and you actually kind of feel anger towards it because it's keeping you up at night and everything, and maybe she was just like pushed too far and like killed her baby, but it was kind of accidental in a way. I feel like the reveals, they could have been pushed a bit further. I know they want to make the characters relatable to us. We're kind of on this path of redemption for them as well, so like the worse the crime is, the harder it is for us as an audience to to like see them as redeemed. I guess that would have been a bit more challenging than what we had, but I think it would have been more interesting if their crimes were like a bit worse. And I thought the reveal of like why they were making the drug, you know, he was just saying he was making it to put people in line, but there's like a lot of like malicious things that you can do with it. You know, if people are protesting for something, you can just make them all comply. You can make people all fall in love, which is really tricky, that kind of situation there. You can make people scared of things, so if you manage to inject it into like enemies in a battlefield, make them all scared of your army and they all flee and retreat. There's a lot of like powerful things that you can do with it here that could have been explored a bit more. As I said, the concept is really interesting and I just wish we'd got like even more of it, really, because the movie itself is quite small scale. I don't want to sound like I'm being like too negative here, but it's just the idea of the movie is so intriguing to me, and there's so much more I wish it had actually explored here. You know, what if there was actually a committee and the committee were planning to use it to wage war? There's so many things that it could have explored even more, I think. And again, with the third act, with how small scale it was, it's kind of weird that there wasn't like some grand set pieces, because Joseph Kosinski, he's just on Top Gun Maverick, and I know that is really like action focused, you know, it's all jet fights and things like that. And then with this, you know, there isn't much action at all really, and the action that was here was kind of comedic, you know, someone's getting kicked in the balls. It's like a completely different tone than Top Gun Maverick, isn't it? I feel like he could have flexed his muscles a bit with the action set pieces here, like a big grand finale or something like that. And again, it's kind of the constraints of a book adaptation potentially, and maybe the constraints of a Netflix budget as well. I hope my review here at the end doesn't sound too negative. It's just, it's easier to talk about things that could have been than what was actually there. Is, you know, when something's really great, I find it difficult to say like, oh, that was good, and then I just move on. Like exploring this idea of what could have been here, there's a lot of things that you can explore with that, and it's really interesting to explore the idea of this concept, what some more things that they could have explored, but there was still stuff I really enjoyed in here. Chris Hemsworth's performance, Miles Teller was good as well. The setting was really cool. It was a really cool concept in theory, and I just wish they'd explored it a little bit more. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, consider leaving a like or comment your thoughts on the film, and if you really loved this, be sure to subscribe to keep up to date for all the future uploads. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.